this is BioPhoenix here, and welcome back to a physical media pickups. And we're in September now, and I don't remember when was the last time I did one of these. It was at least maybe 3 months, maybe? Whatever. And yeah, I'm being a responsible adult by buying a bunch of shit while I'm in the middle of packing. Yeah, I didn't go super crazy or anything, because as you know, I've just been really busy with stuff, and just to kind of give you an idea, I literally only got one game, a couple movies, and a couple manga and a couple books that I just found at Goodwill and just random stores around the area, and yeah. So like I've been saying, I've been really busy with a whole bunch of other shit, and whatever on my downtime I've just been either working on some videos and just watching random crap and all that. So yeah, I hope everyone has been doing alright out there. So yeah, as always, I'm going to be having some good old discussion of some of the stuff that I got. And like I said, it's nothing super crazy, but just I figured I might as well do one before I end up moving to my new place, which is still kind of up in the air because, well, I'm not going to get into that, but let's just say that the housing market right now, it's not fun. So, anyways, let's just get right to it. Alright, so first off, with the video games, like I said, we only got one, and it is a Switch game, and it's a remaster of an old game, and I played the old version, which I will explain here, and that is, Advance Wars 1 and 2. So, yes. So my experience with Advance Wars is that I only played the first one on my friend's GBA, and I remember he was telling me that it's basically Nintendo's StarCraft, which at the time I was really excited about, because it was around the same time when I first started to play StarCraft and all that. But, of course now, yeah, obviously this isn't really StarCraft, really. It's more Fire Emblem, kinda. But, at the time I obviously didn't know about any of those types of games, but still. Anyways, though, yeah, so this remake version looks pretty cool, has voice acting in it, the animations in it are pretty cool looking, even though I do like the pixel art style the best, but I actually don't think it's that bad looking. And also, another thing I do want to mention about the series is that there is one game in the series I've always wanted to play, but I just never got around to it. It was called Days of Ruin on the DS. Which was actually the last game in the series before this thing happened, which is kind of interesting, so... But yeah, anyways, yeah, Days of Ruin is the one I've always wanted to play because it was more, dark and, serious kind of thing. And, and these games are kind of more, lighthearted and kind of, campy, which is cool, I'm all up for that. But I always thought it was interesting that they did, a more darker version, and, hopefully one day I'll eventually play it. But, for now, I'll stick with this one for now. And, I do want to revisit the first one, as it's been, frickin' forever. Alright, now let's get moving on to the other thing I talk about a lot on here, and that is some anime shit. And I got two of them here. So, this one right here is, Lupin the Third, the First. Yeah, that's a weird way of saying it. I mean, I guess I could just call it Lupin the Third First, or Lupin the First. I don't fucking know. Either way, this is the one that looks like it's all CG looking. It kind of looks like a Pixar film, but I actually do really like the way how it's animated here. It actually does look really nice, and I know, they brought, all, the original voice cast there. I think even, all, the Japanese voice and the English voices are all in here, which is cool. And I think this was actually the last, thing that Jigen's Japanese voice actor did before he retired and, he passed away. But, man, he played that character for so fucking long, and he was great as him. But, yeah, anyways, I haven't gotten around to watching this one. As you can tell, it's still sealed. But, yeah, I definitely do want to watch this one. I remember when this first came out, a lot of people were kind of, unsure about it, because they were like, oh, the CG, CG animes are never that good. But I've heard a lot of great things about it, and like I said, the CG in it actually looks really good. So, yeah, I'll tell you all about it whenever I watch it there. Alright, next up for the next anime film we got, this is the last one, and I know many people here are not gonna give a shit because it's just a bunch of girly man shit, but it's, Card Captors the movie. So, as I've told the story before, Card Captors was one of the very first animes I remember watching back then. I mainly watched it because my sister watched it, and she was older, and, all that kind of fun stuff, and yeah, even though despite it was very girly looking, I was, hooked into this shit as a kid. I thought it was great. And even rewatching it, years later, I still think it's a good, fun show. It's definitely nothing mind-blowing, but it's still, kind of, good, lighthearted fun. But as for this movie, though, I have not seen this shit in ages. In fact, when I was looking on the back here, I was like, oh yeah, the old Teletoon logo, and, you know, Neverland and all that. Yeah, fucking Neverland. You know, like, the Neverland dub, it's not, like, amazing, but it's definitely so much better than that other shitty dub that I ended up watching before. It was the one that was done in Singapore, I think, because they had, like, their own English dub. God, that one is so fucking awful. But this one is actually, like, the decent dub. The only problem with it is that they had to, like, change the dialogue with, like, a couple things. It's kind of weird. Well, anyways, yeah, so the movie version, it's, like I said, it's basically the very first movie. I don't remember it too well, although one thing I did thought was funny was that if you look down here, it says it comes with the music video for Froggy Mix, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my god, I forgot about this shit. So then I had to look it up, and I actually did listen to this, and I was just like, yeah, you know what? This shit slaps. It still slaps after all these years later, so... Alright, now we're gonna get into some movies here, and, so this one right here, we're gonna start with this one, yeah, because fuck it, why not? So this is a badass movie, and that is, Gamera, the Heisei trilogy. And look at this. This is an awesome, like, steel case. Let me see if I can, like, get it out of the, little, because it has, like, a little cardboard thing on the back here, because, you know, they have to, like, put all, like, the information and shit. But, yeah, like, look at this. Like, that's, like, the front, which is badass in itself. And you got this. Yeah. Hopefully you guys can see it all well here, but yeah, this shit is really fucking cool. But, yeah, so, for the Gamera movies, these are the ones that came out in the 90s. I've only seen the first one that came out in the 90s, and I remember it being a really great film, and I've heard the second one is very good too, so that'll be very exciting. But yeah, I had a choice of either getting this version, or like a big box set version that was like bulkier, and yet that one was like way more expensive, but they're like both Blu-ray, and I was just like, you know what, I'll get this cool looking steel case version. Not only is it cheaper and more compact, but it also just looks fucking cooler. So, yeah, so I ended up getting this. But yeah, the Gamera series, like I said, I've always wanted to experience more of it, because like I said, out of the 90s films, I've just seen the first one, and I've seen one of, like, the really old ones, but I forget which one it was. I remember it was, like, super goofy and weird. Then again, I feel like that's just Gamera in general. They all had, like, really weird-ass designs, like the one with, like, the freaking knife head. Yeah, that shit's great. But, yeah, very cool to own this. Alright, next we have two Blu-rays based after one of my favorite authors, Stephen King, of course, because, you know, since I've been talking about him, like, non-stop lately. So we got two of them, being, The Mist, and then we got Misery. Now, you're probably wondering, well, didn't you get, like, Misery on DVD a while back? Yeah, well, I made the upgrade, because I realized that my DVD copy was, like, completely fucked. So I was like, well, I guess I gotta get a new one. Well, so I ended up finding this for, like, really cheap, and yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, what can I say? So for The Mist, this was actually the book version, like the short story, was the very first thing I ever read from him in high school. I remember I saw the title of the short story collection called Skeleton Crew, and I was just like, oh, dude, that's a fucking awesome name. I'm gonna read that. And then, yeah, and it ended up being The Mist was, like, the first one in there, and I read it, and I was all like, wow, this is very cool. And then I watched this, and it was, like, fucking great. I love it. And also, the other thing that's cool about this version is that you also get a black and white version, too, which I really want to watch it like that, because I've never seen it like that before. But, yeah, this movie has, like, probably one of the most batshit crazy-ass endings ever. Like, it's nuts, and it's definitely worth seeing. And then Misery, like I've talked about before, amazing movie, great acting. I've actually read the book to it, and I can definitely say the book is also amazing, but for different reasons, because, you know, obviously when you adapt books into movies, obviously not everything can work the same way, so they had to make some changes, but you know what? I think they did a really, really good job with it, so, yeah, like I said, this is definitely one of the best, like, films based after his work. Same thing with this one, too. I think this is one of the best ones, too. Alright, and next up we got a DVD from a movie I remember watching as a kid, and this one is a kind of a weird one that I do kind of want to rewatch again, which is why I bought it, and that is, Bicentennial Man from Robin Williams. You know, another actor that I seem to talk about quite a bit on here too, because, you know, he's one of the best. But, yeah, so I have a very interesting history with this movie. I remember, like, seeing the trailers for this movie. They made it seem like it was going to be some, like, funny, like, family comedy type movie. You know, the type of stuff that Robin Williams is known for, like, doing a lot of, like, funny shit. But then I remember we rented the movie and we watched it, and the movie was, like, very, like, not... Well, I wouldn't say it was, like, not... Like, they had, like, funny parts in them, but, like, they were very few and far between. But the movie was, like, drop dead serious. And I also remember it also being kind of depressing, too. So it was like, I remember as a kid, I thought, like, this movie sucks. Because, you know, it was not like Jumanji, it was not like frickin' Flubber. Yeah, because, you know, I expect everything to be like Flubber. But, but yeah, like, it was not like anything like that at all, and I thought this movie sucked. But of course, nowadays, like, you know, I'm not a kid anymore. I do want to rewatch it again to, you know, see, like, if I would like it. I'm sure I would, because I do think now that I have a better understanding of what it's all about, I think I would. It's just, you know, I just always, like, remember back then, like, with that trailer, like, they showed off all the funny parts, and then, like I said, you watch the movie and you're like, yeah, there's, like, very few jokes in this shit. Like, all those jokes were literally made for the trailer, just to fuck with you. Alright, as for the last movie that we got here, it's also another oddball movie that came out in the late 90s, and that is, Go! Yeah, this movie came out in 1999. I remember this is a movie I watched with a friend of mine ages ago. I don't remember when exactly. I was probably like 13 maybe. But, yeah, I remember watching with him. I remember it being like kind of one of those like, you know, like fun road trip type movies. I remember it's all about these group of people here, and they go to Vegas, and I think there's also a subplot of, like, a drug deal gone wrong or something. I forget exactly. Like I said, this has been, like, so freaking long ago, but as soon as I saw this DVD on the shelf, I was like, oh my god, I fucking forgot about this movie, and then I bought it, because, you know, it was, like, really dirt cheap. But, yeah, I actually really want to watch this again, just to see if it actually holds up or not, because, I don't know, it's always kind of funny to do that, and, you know, even if it doesn't, I mean, you know, fuck it, whatever, right? But yeah, a movie that you definitely don't hear a lot of people talk about, and like I said, I don't know if it still holds up, but hopefully it does. Alright, we're gonna be moving up to my bedroom, where we're gonna be taking a look at all the manga and books that I picked up now. And I really don't feel like taking all this shit down, so we're gonna be doing it up there. So first for the mangas, we have the original Yu-Gi-Oh! And these are the 3-in-1s, so it's volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm glad to have finally found these for a few reasons. For one, in my area, these are pretty tricky to come across, like I rarely ever see them, but I was glad to at least found like a consistent number of them in a row. And I've always wanted to read more of the original manga, because I only read a little bit back in the day at my high school. Yeah, one of my high schools actually had a couple volumes of it. They didn't have many of them, but they had a little bit. So it's going to be really fun to experience reading all these in a row now, because I do think that, you know, the original Yu-Gi-Oh!, like, obviously I grew up with it, so of course it does hold a special place in my heart, but there is a lot of interesting differences that I've heard that I would like to experience, and stuff that's even different from Season 0, and even, like, our original one, because, you know, if I call Season 0 the original one, people will start thinking I'm talking about, you know, the one we all know. It's so fucking confusing. And next we have is Yokohama Kadashi Kiko Deluxe Edition Part 2. So if I remember correctly, in the last pickup video I did, I picked up Volume 1, and I actually have read it since I recorded that video, and yeah, I can actually say I really liked it, and as you can tell, I liked it enough that I want to buy more of them, so yeah. So like I said, it's all about this android girl who runs a coffee shop in the middle of a post-apocalyptic world, and of course, it's like all like bright and colorful and everything. And I found it to be a very fun read, very chill, also very lighthearted, and nothing super crazy dark or anything, at least as far as I know. Next thing you know, by the end of the series, it ends up going all haywire and shit. Yeah, that would be kind of funny. But no, as far as I've read of it, though, it's actually just a very nice, relaxing time, and I really enjoy it. It also helps, too, that the artwork is just really great, too. And next up we have is Spriggan, and we got the last two volumes, 3 and 4. And yes, the last two. I finally have a full set of Spriggan, so that's fucking awesome. So I have read the first two, and this series is really kick-ass. I really love it a whole lot. The best way to explain it to someone who, like, doesn't know anything about it is that it's sort of like Metal Gear, where it has both the whole military theme aspect, but then also has a lot of, like, weird fantasy stuff thrown in there, and it's really great. But, of course, in this series, there's no, nanomachines, son. But yeah, it deals with the main character going through different missions, and a lot of these missions that he goes on have a very interesting things going throughout them. I know I kind of talked about them in other videos, but yeah, like, it's just really damn good. It definitely is, like, one of my favorites that I've been reading, like, recently. And next, we found one that I was not expecting to find whatsoever, and that was Tokyo Babylon from Clamp, and this is book 2. Unfortunately, there was no book 1. This was the only one that they had, but I had to grab it. Not only was it not expensive at all, but I, like, never see this shit ever, so I felt like if I didn't grab it then, I probably would never see it again. So yeah, what Tokyo Babylon is about, from what I remember, is that the main character is kind of like a ghost hunter, so it's all about hunting down ghosts and stuff. And I know there is a OVA of this that came out in the 90s from Studio Madhouse, which sounded kind of cool, but I have heard from people that it feels like really rushed, so I just never really felt like I needed to watch it. Maybe I'll watch it if I ever, like, read through the whole thing and then just see it just for what it is, because I feel like if I watch it first and then, like, read the manga, it's only just going to annoy me. Yeah, another thing I do remember hearing about recently was that apparently there was going to be a full-length anime series in 2020, but unfortunately it was cancelled, which really sucks. So yeah, hopefully tracking down the other volumes shouldn't be too bad, I hope. I know a lot of Dark Horse mangas are very chaotic in the way how they're released. Next up we have is one of the craziest shits ever that I really love, and that is Rooster Fighter Volume 4. I haven't read Volume 4 yet, but I read the first 3, and yeah, I love this shit. It's super crazy, but it actually surprisingly has some really good characterization. I know I've been saying that a lot in the other ones that I've been picking them up, but seriously though, this shit is actually damn good. Don't sleep on it. Alright, and as for the last volumes, and I do apologize that the lighting is shit, I might have to fix that in the editing, but whatever. So the last volumes I have here are Vagabond. I found 2 and 4. Unfortunately no 3, but I already own 1. So when I saw 2 and 4, I figured I'd just get them now just to get them out of the way so I have them, because I know tracking down some of these Vagabond volumes can be a little bit tricky, plus even getting them on retail, they're not cheap, because they're like so freaking massive. But yeah, this is a series I can't wait to get into. It just looks really awesome, right up my alley. But I think I'm going to start reading it once I get Volume 3 and Volume 5. At least if I have the first 5, I'll try it from there and see where it goes. But I have a strong feeling that I am going to really like this one, because I have heard enough about it that kind of gets me interested. Alright, now moving on to the novels. So, this one right here is Blake Crouch, Run. This one I picked up a couple months ago, and I actually have read the whole thing since it's short. It's only, like, less than 300 pages. I think it was, like, 290 pages or something. But yeah, I can tell you all that this book is great. It kind of reminds me of The Running Man from Stephen King, but only if it was a guy's like whole family instead of just one person. And instead of it being a whole game show thing, it takes place outside in the open world, and all the other people there have gone insane trying to kill them and hunt them down. And yeah, I really liked it a lot. In fact, I would even say I even like it better than the Running Man book. And I really hope this one gets turned into a movie or a show or something, because I think it has a lot of potential. Alright, next we have more Blake Crouch, but this is his little crime trilogy called Pines, because it's like a whole detective story. And I like the covers of the last 2 here, but the first cover, the one that's just called Pines, yeah, I don't like that cover, but it was the only one that they had, and I figured I'd grab it. But anyways, I know, like, the cover is not, like, that huge of a deal. It's what's inside that counts, I know. But usually when I try to buy these books, I usually try to buy, like, the covers that I like the most. Plus, I really just like analyzing covers for various things, whether it be game covers, movie covers, book covers, album covers. Like, I just love, like, talking about that shit. It just amuses me. Next up we have is an author with my favorite name, being Michael Moorcock, because I like Moorcock! God, just some of the shit that I say, but yeah, I know, it's really hard not to, like, laugh when you say it there, but yeah, this is the guy that wrote the fantasy series called the Elric series, which is about a white-haired swordsman. And yeah, this may sound like the Witcher series, but this actually came before it, and it's also not entirely like it. That's really, like, the main thing that's really similar to it, and a lot of people like to compare it to that. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really cool one for that. I've never read any of this stuff, and of course I'm willing to try it. And of course, I also do think that the whole powers with his sword is very cool sounding, so yeah, I can't wait to get into this one. Next we have is Gene Wolfe's Castle View, and man, look at this cover art. As soon as I saw this from a YouTube video, I was like, ooh, I have to check this out. And turns out, it sounded like something right up my alley, so yeah, I bought like a hard copy of it, and yeah, I love it. And I do plan on reading through this one really soon, as it's not a long book either, and yeah, from what I remember what it's about, is that it's about this castle that's haunted, but then it also has a lot of, like, science fiction and fantasy stuff thrown in there as well, and there's some, like, murder and thriller stuff. It sounds really interesting. I know that's probably, like, a really shitty description of it, what I just said, but, yeah, like I said, I'm just doing this off by hand, but either way, though, like, it definitely does sound like something that I can't wait to get into. And next we have is Scythe from Neil Shusterman. This is another one that I discovered recently that I thought sounded really cool. So the premise in this one, from what I remember, is that it's about the world suddenly found a cure for death. So no one in the world can die, everyone is immortal. But as cool as all this sounds, unfortunately there are new problems happening, like the world is being way too overpopulated. So there is a new group of people that are basically like Grim Reapers, and yeah, you kind of get the gist from that, but yeah, it sounded really fascinating to me, and I heard that it's also a very easy to read book, as it is considered as a YA book, and YA means a young adult, but the good thing is that this one doesn't have any of the typical bullshit that a lot of those books have. I'm talking like it doesn't have any of your stupid Twilight nonsense. And next up we have is The Devil of Nanking by Mo Hader. I wonder if she's related to David Hayter, the voice of Snake. Metal Gear! Yeah, as you can tell, my voice is, like, not doing very good right now. But anyways, though, yeah, this book I've heard from a lot of people that it was, like, really damn good, but it was also, like, really dark as well, as the whole plot of this one is that it's about this reporter that has to go to Japan and do some research at a actual event that happened called the Nanking Massacre, which happened in the 1930s. And as you would expect, once they go back to the location years after when that whole shit show happened, there's apparently a lot more going on underneath. So, yeah, that's literally all I know, and honestly, even just from that, I'm already sold. And also, this cover art I thought was, like, really cool and creepy looking, and I love it. Alright, and now we're gonna be moving on to the Stephen King stuff. I'm not fully finished yet with getting all the books, but I'm getting there. So first, let's talk about Firestarter. So, the movie of this one, I have seen, the one with Drew Barrymore. I think that was actually one of her very first movies she was in. It was either the first or, like, one of the first, you know, she was a child actress, but yeah, she was in that movie, and I remember liking it. I remember it being a pretty good movie, even though there was, like, one scene in it that I always thought, like, didn't make the most sense ever, but I don't want to explain it here because it'll take too long, but either way though, it was a good movie, and I've always thought that the book sounded really interesting to me. And one quick last thing I will mention about this, to all the JoJo fans out there that are familiar with the creator's other works, like Bao the Visitor, I actually found that Bao the Visitor is very similar to Firestarter in many ways. And I have a feeling that some of the people that did really like that one might actually get into this, and also it's not a long book either, so it's not like a huge time commitment compared to like some of his other books. Alright, and as for the one beside it is his most depressing book ever, Pet Cemetery. Now, this is a book I was not planning on getting anytime soon because I know for a fact I would, like, not read it anytime soon. Also, trying to get a hard copy of it is not cheap, but this hard copy right here is a book club edition, and I happened to find it at a Goodwill, which I was like, holy shit, like, I have to grab that. Plus, it's one of the coolest book covers from him that's, like, really creepy and awesome looking. So yeah, me getting this one was really just an added bonus out of pure luck. But I guess I could mention that the movie adaptation, I've only seen the original one from the 80s, and yeah, that one is a very mixed bag for me. There are parts in it that are legit creepy and like really well done, and I'm like, holy shit. And then there's other parts that are just really fucking terrible. Like, I remember, like, the acting from the main character of it. I can't remember who played him right now, but I remember the part where he does his epic no. It's, like, so fucking cheesy, and I'm not gonna lie, I kinda laughed at it. Next up we got is another one that I never knew about until recently, and that is The Passage. And what's funny about this one is that there's a YouTuber that I watch who does cover a lot of book stuff, and he actually just started reading this book recently, and the very next day that he announced that he was reading it, I literally found it on my Goodwill, and I'm just like, well shit. So yeah, it was pretty ironic. But anyways, though, what this one is about is that it's kind of like a typical end of the world, like post-apocalyptic thing, but with vampires. So it's basically a bunch of vampires take over the world sort of thing. So that actually sounds kind of badass. So the main characters in this one, they better pray that they might be able to find some Vampire Hunter D looking guy to save their asses. Alright, and now we got a Robert McCammon book called Down South. I picked this one up a couple months ago, and unfortunately I can't really remember exactly what it's about, other than that, you know, it's about murder that happens within the South. I mean, kinda right? But one thing that is kind of funny that I can say is that I literally found 2 copies of this book at 2 different places, and they literally had the exact same sticker, the stupid kangaroo sticker here. Yeah, it was kind of weird. Alright, next up we got this like weird looking one called J-Pod. So yeah, you look at this cover art, it looks like a bunch of Lego people. Yeah, I remember back in the day, I used to see this cover all the frickin' time, and I would used to be like, what the hell is this? Like, what is this with this Lego shit? But after I got into my more reading habits lately, I decided to look into it, and it turns out it actually does sound like it could be pretty fun. So pretty much, it's about this guy who works for a video game company, but a really, really small one, so like an indie dev team, and apparently he talks about like his experience, and then there's like a lot of like funny, like dumb shit. Like, apparently it's very like satirical, so I'm very curious the way how it goes there. And plus, you gotta remember too, this book came out in 2006, so that was like when indie games really were like freaking indie games, so it does sound like something that I would probably like, at least if the jokes are actually funny in it. At least I hope they are. Alright, and as for the final 2 here, we have Eric von Lustbader, The Ring of 5 Dragons. So, I haven't read this guy yet. I do have a couple of his other books in his whole ninja series. But as soon as I saw these, I was like, oh, he wrote like actual fantasy novels? I didn't know that. So I decided to give this one a try. This one's actually the first one in a trilogy. I actually did see the second one as well, but I decided to just get the first one for now, just, you know, to make sure if I like it, you know? But yeah, it does have a pretty cool cover. And finally, at long last, we have World Without End. So as you can see with the title here, it also mentions about Atlantis, so that right away got my attention. And plus the cover art for this one looks really cool looking. In fact, the cover art graphics kind of remind me of that one PC game there. It was called Zeus or something. It was basically like a SimCity type game, but with Zeus and all that. So, you know, it was like really cool looking. I should try to play that game again. Anyways, though, yeah. So this cover art kind of reminded me of that. I thought it was cool looking, and then after I looked it up online, I was like, yeah, I think I might check this out, and besides, it was like dirt-ass cheap. So I figured I'd risk, like, the $2 that I spent on it. So yeah, that'll be everything that we got here. So as always, what are some stuff that you got recently that you'd like to share, or any of the stuff that I picked up that you may know more about, or anything else you can, like, have a discussion about? Either way, it's all fun here. So with that being said, thanks for watching, commenting, and have yourselves a great day.